Namaskaram, everyone. Thank you for joining us, whether it be morning or evening or wherever you are. We have Dr. Vikas Jyothe with us today. He's going to be talking about flexing their brains. And this is about the neuroplasticity benefits of yoga for kids. A little bit about Dr. Vikas Jyothe. He's an MD PhD. He's an Ayurvedic doctor, lead yoga examiner. He's also a yoga ambassador, an artist also by passion. He is the founder of Swasti Yoga Center. It's an Ayush accredited yoga training center. And they have students from more than 35 countries. He was selected by the Indian government to assist the Indian embassy in Armenia for the second International Yoga Day. He has also won the Yoga Ratna Award in 2022 from NAYI. And his work in the field of health, education, menstrual health, and Ayurveda for slums is known internationally. And I'm very privileged to have and host Dr. Jyothe with us. He's well-traveled, I know, very young, but very energetic, very accomplished. And we welcome you on the Indology Academy. Welcome, sir.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you very much, Anjali ji, for inviting us at the Indology Academy. Today's webinar is a great opportunity for us to highlight more about and talk more about neuroplasticity. And in fact, I would like to thank and congratulate all of you for taking time. Today it's Sunday morning or evening in India. So let's start with our today's session. Being Shiva Jayanti, we would start with the prayer, with the Om chanting, and our salutations to Maharishi Patanjali. We request everyone to hold the palms, inhale. Yogena chittasya padena vacham malam sharirasya cha vaidyakena yopakarutam pravaram munina patanjalim pranjalindranatusmi. Warm palms on your eyes, slowly. Namaste. Happy Shiv Jayanti to all the viewers. Yeah. So let's start with our topic. In fact, most of you might have felt very curious, like, what is this neuroplasticity all about? Because nowadays, the whole storm is all about ChatGPT, artificial intelligence. And from that perspective, we have heard what's neuroplasticity and what neural networking is all about. And suddenly we have this topic. And that was the reason also why we chose this particular topic, so that many a times there is a complaint amongst people that yoga is very dull, boring, outdated. Why to learn a science which is so much thousands of years old? And is it really relevant in today's context? So that's how the future, we all know, is all about intelligence. And it's not only about human intelligence, it's also about the machine intelligence, artificial intelligence. And something which is very interesting and exciting is that the future generation, the future kids of ours who are going to be the citizens, they won't be competing with each other, but it would be, the competition would be within them and the humanoids, or maybe the artificial intelligence. So that's, in that kind of a world we are stepping up into. And in that dimension, in this kind of futuristic world, how we are going to integrate yoga and make yoga as a next generation tool, which will come to our aid and helping both the humans and the intelligence side. So that's how this topic is going to be. I hope you are very excited to know more about the yogic perspective of neuroplasticity. So though the words seem to be very difficult, you need not be, getting bogged down with these kind of terms, because we are going to have all the explanations in the form of stories. We're also going to take the help of different kathas from the Quran and everything. And we will see how we can simplify this particular topic and make it more and more interesting and relevant in today's context. So let's start our journey. Yeah. So why yoga? As I talked about, yoga is not only a physical exercise, which many a times it's perceived across the world, but it can really be a great solution for the problems or the challenges which our kids are facing. And that's where some of the important challenges, especially after the COVID, we have experienced that the screen time of the kids have gone very high. They are so much glued into it. These are some of the important problems and challenges that we all as parents face in our kids. And somewhere, because of the changing dynamics, you cannot give a solution or an alternative for them. You cannot just say that, okay, kids have to reduce the screen time and they have to resort to the conventional means. And because of this kind of binge watching and these kind of habits, it's again the physical activity, which earlier kids used to go outdoors. They used to play in the garden with other kids, and there was more of socializing, and these kind of activities used to happen. So that has been reduced. They reduced during the COVID times, but even now when the pandemic has gone, okay, even still these habits, what of being inside the house and indoor games are preferred other than going outside and sweating out. So these are the challenges which we are experiencing as parents. And the whole, like, today's discussion is all about how as parents we can use different aspects of yoga in solving these problems. Okay. Along with that, there are certain other aspects which are related with the emotional and the social context. So from that point of view, there is something like extreme academic pressure. That is also a fact which we cannot deny. Somewhere it's all about, winning and losing has become a very important part of our culture. And this pressure which is there in the corporate world is even percolating through the parents into the households, in the kids also. So this kind of comparison that we have is also creating a lot of pressure, and the joy and the fun of studying or engaging yourself in different kind of learning activities is also reduced. So we are just trying to highlight some important aspects. We'll just keep it in our mind at a subtle level, and then later on we will try to understand how neuroplasticity and yoga can give solution to these modern problems of our children. Along with that, another important aspect has all become about child safety. Even it is about internet and other things, safety is a very important concern, right? Many of the times parents are so much worried about what kind of content is being viewed by our children. Or sometimes just few days back, I heard incidents in our friends home that happened, that a small child was very much engaged into the mobile phone which was given by the mother for the school. And after suddenly the mother realized that there is a big amount from her bank which is being deducted. And then later on, when she got into the detailed account statement, she realized that recurrently for a long period of time, 3-4 months, this amount, initially the amount was small, but then later on she realized the big amount has been deducted. And when she got into the details, she came to know that her child was into this kind of gaming habit, a small child, hardly into primary school. And how these kids are being brainwashed and motivated by other people online and on this kind of platforms. The child was asked to use this kind of mobile phone and then delete the messages which were coming from the bank side. And in this way, for a few months, the mother was completely ignorant about such kind of transactions being done. Yeah. So in this way, safety. Yeah. So I just gave an incidence about how internet mobile safety is a concern. This was from a financial aspect, but there are certain other aspects which are also very concerned. So when we talk about yoga, though there are these kind of problems and challenges which our kids are facing, like here somebody will feel, how can yoga, which is so-called, our idea perception of yoga is doing sun salutations and chanting some mantras or doing some kind of breathing work, pranayam practices. So how that yoga practices is going to have some kind of effect on the safety or internet safety of that particular child. So those who have been into the practice of yoga and have read Yoga Sutras, yeah, like the father of yoga is Maharshi Patanjali, and he has codified all this knowledge into a book called as Yoga Sutra. So that Yoga Sutra, the first line which is there in Yoga Sutra says, Atha Yoga Anushasan. Yeah, Anushasan means self-discipline. So now we start the science of yoga, which is the science of self-discipline. So this is such a beautiful and important statement, because here we are talking about, right from kids to adults, where many a times we are not able to control our temptation and our cravings or our sensory impulses. And many a times we create mistakes. Like, for example, the child was tempted to get into these kind of problems, and he consciously deleted the messages where he knew that what he is doing is not so good or right. Yeah. So that's how discipline, making rules, is not going to save this world. What is very important is Maharshi Patanjali, though he has written this Yoga Sutra 2300 years back, even today it's very important and relevant, that we cannot make rules and make this world a better place. We have to instill self-discipline and self-regulation. Self-autonomy is the new thing that is going to be helpful, especially when we are talking about the new age challenges, whether we talk about the intelligence and other things. This is how it's going to be very important. So after understanding and having a quick glimpse of these problems, especially this is why today's topic neuroplasticity from the kids' point of view is because for all the parents we are all adults. So we are like these pots which are in the background. Yeah, already they are baked. So if you want to make the pot, you want to increase the length and the size and width, nothing is going to happen. The pots will break, but there would be any change. Yeah. So the only place where the changes can happen is this particular pot, because it's still in the making. And that's where the kids have a great advantage. And especially when we are talking about neuroplasticity, we are talking about the brain development of the child. And there are some quotes which from research journals and everything which give evidence how the earlier we start is going to give an edge for the growth of a child. Yeah. So before we go into the complex topic, let's make this discussion more fun and interesting with a story. Yeah, I hope Sunday morning stories are good to start with, breakfast stories. Okay. So the story is about a simple old man living in the foothills of Himalayas, very much calm, contented, satisfied with life. Okay, a practicing yogi, yeah, living yogi. So one day what happened is suddenly when he woke up, the news spread that his horse ran away. He lost his horse. For a few days, even after searching a lot, yeah, he couldn't find his horse. The villagers came to know that the old man lost his horse. So they, we all go to people to, share the grief and everything. Everybody came to his place and started saying, we came to know about your loss. Yeah, it's such a terrible loss. The horse was very good, this and that, blah, blah. And they said, oh, it's so sad. We are all very sorry for you. So suddenly the old man said, good or bad, who knows? And then all the villagers were suddenly in a state of a bit of shock. Like, what is this old man saying? What is good in this? Why is he saying good? But anyways, the villagers felt old man, he might not understand what has happened, so they left. After a few days, a few weeks passed, and then one day morning, when he woke up, he found that not only his horse, which was lost, he again found it in his farm, but along with that, the horse had come up with another horse also. So there were two horses in his field. So again, this news of another horse being found in his field along with the old horse spread across the village. All the villagers were very happy. They came to greet him, how lucky he was about finding this new horse. Again, the same thing. The old man said, good or bad, who knows? Yeah. Again, the villagers were, why is he so upset? It's a good news. Why to have a doubt? But again, they went away. A few days went and an accident took place. His son was, having a race, and he fell from his horse and he broke his leg. So again, he was, done all the treatment and everything. Villagers came and tried to console the old man. The old man said, "Why are you so upset? Is it good or bad? Who knows?" Again, the same thing. The villagers went. After a few days, the kingdom in which they were living had a fight, had a war with another kingdom. And the king declared that all the young people in the kingdom have to join the war. And all the young people from the villages had to go on the war fighting for the kingdom. Everyone was very upset. The only thing was, only young man which was left in that village was the young guy of the old man, because he has broken his leg. And suddenly felt how lucky the old man is. His son is there staying with him. And the only young person to be here. And the only reason he is there because he has broken his leg. Yeah, he was disabled to serve in the military. So that's how many a times in our life we are not able to understand what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad. Even without having much of a patience, we try to jump to conclusions and we accordingly take actions. So that's how I want to make us, all of us understand what plasticity is all about. Yeah. So if you have this quality of plasticity, we are more, according to Bhagavad Gita, it's called as Sthita Prajna. We are more balanced and we don't jump to conclusions and we are not hurry in that. And that is a very important quality which is required for someone excel in whatever they do. Yeah. So that's all about plasticity. Plasticity can be perceived in our day-to-day life in many ways, like how it is related with health. Yeah, today we have the topic of neuroplasticity. It's related to brain, but that's also something what we experience in our day-to-day life, around us, in the form of heart also. Many people might have heard about heart attacks. Yeah. So one reason why heart attack take place is a problem which is called as arteriosclerosis. Yeah. So what is this arteriosclerosis problem? Imagine if you have a green stem, you are able to move that stem, and this stem is very flexible. Yeah. But what happens if the stem is dried? After some time, the stem becomes very hard and rigid. So if you try to bend, it doesn't bend, but it breaks. So this particular property of the blood vessels, the blood pipes, initially when we are young and regularly practicing yoga, pranayam and everything, it's very flexible. And that's the reason your heart is very young. But if someone is not practicing any kind of exercise or yoga, or the proper diet and lifestyle is not being followed, then it becomes rigid. Okay. And then instead of, whenever there is excess of blood flow, they break, and there is something which we call it as hemorrhage or heart attack takes place. So such kind of problems might happen at heart, in the brain. If it happens in the heart, it's a heart attack. It happens in the brain, it's something called a stroke. So the central idea of here is something called as plasticity. Plasticity means change. If your heart is, your blood vessels are capable of adapting to change, no problem. If your brain blood vessels are able to adapt to the change, no problem. But any organ of your body is not able to adapt with the change and the changing environment, it creates a lot of problem, which we understand as different kind of diseases. For example, in heart, it's heart attack. In brain, it's something called as stroke. So this is how what we are trying through yoga is to increase the capacity of human cells, tissues, and organs to adapt with the changing environment. That's what we also have the Darwin's theory of survival of the fittest. Who is the greatest survival? The survival is anyone who can adapt to the change better. Yeah. And what is a person who is not able to adapt to the change is the one who is suffering in these days. Like, for example, there's a very common word which we all use very, very casually, which is called as stress. Yeah, everybody has heard. So the simple way in which we can define what is stress, if this is a water bottle, yeah, a bottle in my hand. What if I hold this particular bottle in my hand, nothing happens. But imagine if I am told to hold this particular bottle for one day, I feel that the bottle is weighing a ton. It creates a lot of tension in my hands and everything. Yeah. So What is the solution for this? I have to keep this bottle down, right? But there are many people who know this solution, but they are not able to implement. They keep holding the bottle and saying that I want to keep the bottle down, I want to keep the bottle down, but throughout their life, they keep holding it. And that's the reason why they suffer. They know the solution for it, but still, because they don't act, they are always suffering. So that's what we have, this particular problem being defined in yoga, that karma is very, very important. Yeah. You might be having different kind of solutions, but unless and until it is converted into an action, it is of no use. So this ability to take the decisions and convert it into actions is what is called as plasticity. So after understanding what is plasticity, let's move towards the idea of neuroplasticity and how in today's world, anyone who has mastered this particular area of life is someone who is going to be called as a successful person in the future to come. But when we talk about neuroplasticity, there is something which is a very key important element to it. And that element is what is called as patience. Neuroplasticity is not something that is, something that will happen in just in a fraction of time or something. It requires a lot of patience. And for us to understand how it works, some of you definitely might have, you might have seen wells like this in Indian villages. Okay. So the interesting thing is when we draw the water from the wells, okay, you might have seen that there are rocks around the wells which have deep cuts. Now, why am I asking you to imagine this is, if I tell you that you have a rock on one side and a rope on the other side, and I ask you to cut the rock with the rope, do you think it is possible? With a rope to cut a rock? No. In fact, if you try, what will happen? The rope will break, but nothing will happen to the rock. Yeah. So that's how. But the same thing, we have seen the rocks are getting cut in the well. And every day, the women of the villages, they put the bucket inside and pull the rope, pull the bucket with the rope. The rope is creating friction on the rocks. And with the everyday friction, which is happening now since decades, the rocks have developed cuts. So this is not possible in a one day thing. It is something which is taking decades and decades. And that is what we call it as patience. Yeah. So there are many books nowadays coming in kind of called as Atomic Habits and many such kind of things. So that's the concept which comes from yoga, which is called as abhyas. So the neural networking, even which we are seeing in the artificial network, like for example, we have this ChatGPT, very famous thing, artificial intelligence, open source AI, and all these things coming in. So the secret behind that is also the same. Maybe as users, we might have discovered it just few months before, like as lay users. Okay. But people who have been working on this might be for decades or for even longer time on these kind of concepts. So that's how in neuroplasticity, and consistent.
I think we lost Dr. Chote for a bit. Guys, please feel free to put your questions in the chat while we wait for the connection to improve. If anyone has questions. Sorry, we lost you for a bit, Dr. Chote.
Yeah. There was some issue with the internet connectivity. Yeah. So am I audible now? Okay. Yeah. So I was just sharing how when we visit the Kailash temple in where you could excavate tons and tons of this stone from mountain, a rock cut temple, where the temple didn't start to be built from the base, but it started from the top. Yeah. So that kind of technology was existing hundreds and thousands of years back. And that is something which is amazing, which helps us to understand the power of yoga. Okay. So to understand neuroplasticity from the yogic perspective, we can understand the story of Varun, who is the god of the sea, and his son, that is Bhrigu. Now, in this story, what happens is Varun, who is the father of the sea, his son comes up with a question that which is the most important thing of this universe. So as a father, he could directly give the answer of what is the most sea.
Did we lose him again?
Yeah, I think we lost him for a bit, and that's okay. I mean, there might be some glitching going on. Guys, please do put your questions in the chat. For those who have joined, I mean, just a little bit about Indology Academy while we get him back. The goal is to bring forth authors and amazing people who are doing good work on the ground. So here, I think we have him back. Take it away, sir.
Yeah, Anjali ji, am I audible? There's some, I guess, problem.
You're
with the-
audible. Yes, audible. Yes.
Maybe I will just share screen and stuff. Okay. Yeah. So we were into the story of Varun and Bhrigu. Yeah. So that's how Bhrigu, the son, sage, a great sage, he goes again back and meditates, comes back with a solution and says that apart from anna, the food, the most important thing I believe is the prana, the movements that happen inside. The prana is the one which is the base of this universe. Varun again is not very satisfied and he asks his son to again go back and find out the crux. So Bhrigu again goes back and meditates and comes out with the answer that he says that this time I have understood, and that is the manas. The mind is the basic of all the universe. So this is a very deep answer. Mind, from the gross he has moved into the subtle. But again, Varun is not very satisfied and he asks him again to go back. So you can understand how much repetitions in it. Though as a father, he could have, had the authority and the power to directly give an answer, but he makes him goes and again, Bhrigu comes back and he says, so the emotions, the buddhi is the one, the vijnanamaya kosha is the one which is the basics of all the universe. Again, Varun says that this is not, you have to even more focus. So this time when Bhrigu goes, he never comes back. Why? Because he has actually found out the basic of the universe, the basis of the universe. And that is what gives him the complete peace and bliss. And that is the Anandamaya Kosha. So that's how the concept of Panchakosh that we find in Taittiriya Upanishad, this is how it is given over here. Now, many of us might be having this kind of question. What has this to do with neuroplasticity? So what is neuroplasticity? It's all about this repetitive to and for action. Okay, machine learning takes place only when the data, what you are introducing, okay, when the data, amount of the data is voluminous, that is how the efficacy of the machines improve. And, after a period of time with great amount of testing, you can find initially the machine is doing a lot of errors, but with great amount of patience, practice, time, testing, the neural pathways get stronger and stronger. And this is how, inspired from human brain and development, the artificial neural network develop. And that is what we have today in the form of this artificial intelligence. So this is exactly the story, what we get from the Vedas, that how to develop neuroplasticity. This is how Varun was developing the neuroplasticity of Bhrigu, not by directly spoon feeding, but by being the real guru. That's what a guru does. In India, we have 2 days. One is Guru Purnima, and the second is Shikshak Din. Many of the times, even I, as a student, was not very clear when to celebrate, when to call Shikshak Teachers Day, and when to call a Guru Purnima. Yeah. So the idea between two, nowadays, slowly and gradually, a little bit of things are clearing. Yeah. Teacher is the one who handholds, spoon feeds. It's more like a business. You give me money, I give you information. Yeah, that's more like a teacher's thing. But that makes you dependent. It's not a foolproof solution. But a guru is the one who just points out whether to have faith, whether it will really, you have to find your own solutions. He doesn't spoon feed you, but he makes you capable to find your own solutions. So that's how, if you follow the aspects of guru, the way the qualities of guru are being described, that is something which will be helpful, develop the neuroplasticity of the next generation. And why it is very important, we will see in the next slide, because that is what is very, very going to be very, very crucial. These qualities are going to be very crucial for the next generation to have skill sets and knowledge which can compete or which can complement the future evolving technology like AI and other things. So let's try to understand some interesting aspects of human brain. From a research paper which was being published in 2000, you can see here that the neural development is not only taking place, you can see that from the birth, okay, you can see how rapidly these particular baby, a child, is able to absorb these things. But not only from the birth, but even before birth, these kind of developmental activities have been started. So we already are accustomed to these kind of practices, like listening to the mantras during pregnancy, or there are different Garbha Sanskar aspects. Now, why they are very important, that is, even through science, it talks about like how sound waves travel far more faster in the medium of liquid and solids compared to air. So if two people are talking, they're having a conversation in the medium of air. But the baby, the fetus which is inside, is in the amniotic fluid, which is liquid. And the uterus and everything, which is solid. So what a husband or someone who is talking with the lady is going to be far more profoundly heard by the fetus which is inside. And with the science of embryology, we do understand that the hearing capacity of a baby, of a fetus, starts developing from the second trimester. And at the end of the second trimester and the starting of third trimester, the baby can even remember those aspects, which you can literally see here. The hearing pathway is something which is being developed from -3, -2, -1. So even before the delivery, these aspects are very much developed. And that's how, 75–80% of the neural development has already been started at the fetal level. And, from the Harvard Center for Developing Child, this particular study talks about the 90% of the brain's development happens even before the 5 years of age. That's how you can find all these peaks, whether it's the language peak or the senses peak, or whether it's the cognitive function peak. All these things have already been started growing at a very exponential level at a very early age. And that's why I feel many parents have this question: what is the right age to teach yoga for kids? I mean, as a doctor, I've never come across parents who ask me, what is the right age to give chocolates? The right age in India to go to McDonald's? No. All these questions never come to the doctors. But the doctors are always being asked, what is the right age to teach yoga? we have a lot of kind of skepticism as far as good practices are concerned. Okay, there we want all the exact data, research, and everything. But as far as nuisance value is concerned, even if data is given, even if on the cigar packet there's smoking kills, there's a photo attached to it, but still we conveniently we are blind to it. So that's how I think this session, one of the important reason for this session is also to make sensitize the parents to be more conscious about the sciences, because the earliest you are able to introduce this to a child, and for this our idea of yoga has to change. Why the idea of topic of neuroplasticity is yoga is chitta vritti nirodha, a tool that works on your brain, on your mind. It's a tool that will amplify the powers of your mind, right? And this aspect of yoga is not very much highlighted, because whenever a parent is sending a child to some yoga class, the only expectation from a parent is, the first one is, okay, the daycare center, a yoga class is far more affordable than a daycare center. Okay, let's go send it there. And second is, okay, you expect a little more. What is that? Okay, anyways, my child will be able to do some headstand, and some shirshasana and some gimmicks, so that when some guest comes to my home, I can show my, I can ask my child to do some kind of demonstrations in front of them. And, so the idea of, benefits of yoga for children is really, really at a very nascent age. What I feel is, it is very important to educate parents and make them understand that the role that yoga is going to play in the overall personality development of your child is enormous. But the only thing is that not every yoga class or every yoga instructor is capable of doing it. Because in the age of commercialization, yoga has become yoga. Yeah. And many a times, it's the packaging which is so much glamorous that the content, the yoga itself has been lost. So whenever you're choosing a yoga program, see to it that the instructors who are conducting these programs are very much aware about Yoga Sutras and this, we call it as the traditional aspects of yoga. If you send it the right place, definitely it will have a long-standing impact on the growth of your child. So coming back to our topic of neuroplasticity, the mysteries of human brain. Yeah, our human brain works and grows in two different ways. Okay, as I was talking about brain development. So how do we define this brain development in a scientific way? Like, just for some people who are more curious, there are two ways. One is, in case, for example, you want to do a big job, then what I can do is I can recruit more number of staff to complete that job. Or second thing is, I will increase the efficiency of my staff to complete that job. So it's a basic logic, right? So how can I increase the number of staff? So for example, here, how can I improve my brain function by increasing the number of neurons? Okay, but that can happen only if certain things are done at an early age. But by the time we send our kids to some yoga program, already the child is in some secondary school, or he is already an adult. So these structural changes are very, very difficult if you want to really, you are expecting that kind of changes. Yeah. Now, later on, we will see some of the images, like especially mantras. Okay, there is a slide, but I will like to show you. Like, this is a slide, okay, where it talks about, it's a research study done by James Hartswell, and after that, it became so famous, and it was called as Sanskrit effect. Yeah, how just listening to the mantras and chanting the mantras. Literally, I mean, why I have taken the research paper itself is many people feel that, okay, it's some kind of bluff and all that. No, it was a multicentric study which was done. And literally here they talk about how the number of gray matter cells in the functional MRI, almost 10% increase was been found in the gray matter cells of certain areas of your brain, which especially like the cingulate cortex, anterior cingulate cortex, and hippocampus. Hippocampus is that part of your brain which is related with memory. Yeah. So that's how we were all about how we can increase the number of cells of the brain. But how? Through the mantras. So in this way, yoga, when we talk about yoga, it's not only Shirshasana and sun salutation. It is these aspects. It's yama niyamas also. It's mantras also. Okay. These practices, meditation, these are certain practices which are very subtle, but can have a great impact as far as the architectural neuroplasticity of the brain is concerned. This is number one. Second, the functional development. As I talked about, I can make my staff more capable. I can increase their functional efficiency by equipping with their certain tools. So here, how your brain can be more well equipped. So that is something which we have in Yoga Sutra as Ekatattva Abhyas. There is a concept which is called as dharana in yoga. Those who know about the 8 limbs of yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, they know Antaranga Yoga is dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. Yeah. Many people feel yoga is different and meditation is different. That's again a different level of discussions. So, I mean, if there is some yoga teacher who is saying, I will teach meditation along with yoga, that is the class you can have. I mean, how you can understand which, how to make differentiation is such kind of people you should be pretty aware of, especially we live in a world which is now so multicultural, multi-diverse and everything, that finding the right genuine thing is very difficult. Even we doctors call this as Google patients. Okay. Treating a patient is more easy than treating a patient who has read everything on Google and come to us. So that so in the same way, today things have become so, that finding the right thing is very difficult. So one tip to select, is a good yoga teacher is who understands that meditation is a part of it. So in that meditation, dharana, we talk about Deshbandha Chittasya Dharana, which says that only if you are able to focus and attach your mind on a particular topic for a long period of time consistently, only then the neural synapses or the neural connections inside the neurons of your brains will start getting stronger and stronger. And to make them stronger and stronger, repetition is the key. And that repetition is called as, in Sanskrit, abhyas. Okay. And Maharishi Patanjali says that there are 3 levels of yoga practitioners. For the lowest level, I recommend Ashtanga Yoga, which Swami Vivekananda himself had talked about as Raj Yoga. But for the highest practitioners, I recommend Abhyas. Abhyas with Vairagya. So that's how you can understand if Maharishi Patanjali, the father of yoga, says that even above the Ashtanga Yoga, I recommend Abhyas and Vairagya, how much would be the strength and the power of Abhyas. And this Abhyas is today in the neural world is called as increasing or strengthening the synapses. Yeah. So that's how when you try to deep inside the traditional aspects of Yoga Sutras, you realize that the future of artificial intelligence is something which has already had its roots into our traditional yoga practices and the classical texts. So it's very interesting to talk about these aspects, and when we have such a beautiful audience. Of course, this topic is very deep, and as the name suggests, okay, it's not very easy to on a Sunday morning, but definitely it will ignite the interest of many, and we can have more and more kids coming into the yoga practices. So just to have a brief idea, what are those factors which can improve the neuroplasticity at all the 5 layers? Or yoga talks about Panchakosh. In all the 5 different dimensions, you will find there are different activities made for different aspects of yourself, which can improve the neuroplasticity. For example, yogic diet, which is called as Mitahar, can have a great impact on improving neuroplasticity. I'm just reading the few important ones. Pranayam can have an important role. Then experience, practice can have a great important. Education is the one can create a great benefit on Manomaya Kosha. Another thing is social integration. What is happening after the COVID is we are trying to become more and more isolated, more and more nuclear. But social integration, more and more open communication, honest communication. So these kind of improvement in the relationship building, if you invest your time and efforts in these aspects, then your Vijnanamaya Kosha increases, and that is also a way to improve your neuroplasticity. And why are we focusing on neuroplasticity is because the science has proved through the researches that improved level of neuroplasticity is directly proportional to increased level of intelligence. And that's how many times we are, just pressurizing the kid into some academic excellence. But if you really want your child to be achieving excellence, it's very important we invest our time and energy in developing certain kind of qualities in the child that will make his success sustainable. That's the more important. You might just cram some kind of information and achieve success in one exam, but to be sustainably achieving success, you really need to invest this time. So that's the idea of how yoga works on all the 5 layers in improving neuroplasticity of a child. Now, if you try to ask and understand, explore what are the qualities that the children need to develop in the futuristic world, these are the certain aspects that you will come across. To compete with the kind of, the intelligence which is coming up, you need to be more creative. And you will really understand that the jobs which were all about, certain set of skills now are going to be outdated because there are machines to do that. Like earlier days, there used to be this bullock carts and all these things. Now there are cars and machines to do that. And later on, the drivers will also be replaced. And there are now already the Google and everything are talking about driverless cars. Yeah. So here it's very important as parents that how we develop creativity in kids. And how is that possible? If you are attached with the results, you can never be creative. If I never want to taste success, I can never be successful and I can never be creative. For example, if Steve Jobs would have wanted to be one of the richest person in the world, he would have never created iPhone or something which is so beautiful as an Apple. The only thing is he was passionate, and because he was passionate about developing something, he really didn't care whether he would succeed or fail. And this kind of what we talk about, success and failure is something like a seesaw. The important thing is through yoga, we have to learn how to enjoy even in the failures as we enjoy in the success. And that is what is taught in yoga as vairagya, detachment with the results. And only when you are detached, you are completely creative. So in this way, I can elaborate all these important points. You can understand how important each and every point is. So understanding these futuristic goals, what we have done is we have tried to create a game. Okay. It's not like we only have the problems and these concepts, but today I'm going to introduce you with a game which we have designed for the kids, and that can be played. It's not only for the kids, though we have designed it for the kids. The whole family can play together. And how they can play together, because it's a card game. I hope many of you love playing cards, but in India, many a times it happens like the moment you say I'm playing cards, okay, the parents are very cautious because it's very addictive and it's very, having a negative influence. But this card game is very interesting because it is going to teach our kids all about the yogic values and have many different kind of impact in especially all these 5 important aspects of life: critical thinking, adaptability, and collaboration. What is the beautiful example which is given in our culture about collaboration is most of the world is obsessed with Olympics, where it is all about higher, stronger, and better, where one wins and another loses. Does anybody in the audience know about any game where everybody can win, everybody can have a gold medal? Have you heard about such kind of a game? Very rare. But in India, we celebrate that game. We play that game. We all have known about that. Who has taught us to play this game where you can win along with everyone. So this collective spirit was created by none other than Lord Krishna. And we play this game. What is this game? Dahi Andi. Where everybody wins. The pot of curd which is there up is the result. So when you make the human pyramid, the person who is at the base never feels that he is a loser and so he is at the base of pyramid. And it's never a kind of a feeling that just because I am the top, I am the winner. Even if I am the top, I'm just a part of a big picture. And when I get that particular curd, I have the responsibility to distribute among all my friends who have helped me to get at the top. So can you imagine a corporate world, where the CEOs feel actually connected with every individual worker in the organization? That's how we have been taught how to celebrate. And these are yogic values. And if we are able to integrate this into our child and develop their personality, that's where I feel we can give a great contribution to the next generation of society. So that's in Bhagavad Gita, this is a definition of yoga, where a person, even when he loses, he is so happy as if he is the winner. And this is called as Samatvam Yoga Uchyate. Samatvam, balance, achieving this balance of life in every aspect is yoga. Very different from the physical yoga that we practice. So ultimately, I will relieve what kind of solution we have gotten. So this game that you find over here, it's a card game, shredding card game. How many of you have played Uno? We all of us like playing the game, and this is very similar to that. And we have kept it intentionally similar so that it is not very complicated. The rules are not very new, and it is more comfortable for all of us to adapt. Now, why we have kept the name Om? Because all the sufferings, according to yoga, is coming because of our attachments. Like the game of Uno, who is the winner? One who gets rid of all his cards is the winner. So exactly here, the idea of samadhi is one who is able to get rid of all the sanskar is the one who can achieve samadhi. So that's why the tagline of our game is play to lose. So here winning is not important. Here losing becomes important. Yeah, we have tried to change the games so that we learn to celebrate this aspect of life. So you can see here how the kids, like the Uno game, every participant gets 7 cards and you have to match the color, match the numbers. But the most important part is in every card, there is a Sanskrit name, okay, which talks about some negative aspect of personality, or you can call it as life challenges. So all the colored cards, for example, if you put in number 1, number 2, they are given different kind of names. They are the challenges called as antarayas. Okay. So in this way, when a child puts the card, he has to say the Sanskrit name. So when you say the particular name, okay, not only your Sanskrit, the child learns Sanskrit, but at the same time, he is able to feel that he is getting rid. For example, he puts the card of alasya. So it's a kind of an affirmation where you are trying to say that I get rid of my alasya, my laziness within me. So in this way, by playing the card, you are subconsciously trying to improvise your personality. And there are some wild cards also, some white cards also. I'm just trying to explain them so that, like, in case you feel motivated, you can also get one and play with your family members, and you can understand how interesting it becomes. Because I've realized many people have this challenge. We want to learn Sanskrit, we want to develop interest about yoga and this into our kids, but the grammar is so. Every time I've heard, like, you start from Deva, Prathama, and Vibhakti and all this Sanskrit grammar, and then by the time you are able to understand, you lose the interest in Sanskrit. So maybe we can start with this kind of fun and activity games where they are able to enjoy both yoga and Sanskrit. So making yoga and Sanskrit fun was the main intention behind it. And at the same time, we don't lose the content, the rich content of it. So what we have experienced and the data that we have collected has helped us to understand that this game, and along with, this is a yogic game. So it helps to improve overall the mood and the creativity of the kids. The kids have reduced their screen time. Like literally, some of our students say that now their kids make it mandatory for them after coming from office to see to it that they play half an hour, 1 hour of this kind of game. And they themselves had reduced the watching the mobile and the TV screens. So you can also try, and that is something which is increasing the bonding between the family, the shyness, communication improves. And as I talked about, it's not only I win, but how everyone can win. That is also a collective winning spirit, which is developing with this kind of game. Along with that, we have also observed that this game helps to improve the collaborative learning. Together they are able to learn certain aspects. Together they are able to understand what is the purpose of my life and how to set the life goals according to our classics. And problem solving skills is also very important. How I can get rid of the cards to achieve samadhi. So these are very interesting ways in which this Om game is helping the kids to work at a subtle level on their personality and improve their neuroplasticity. So with this, thank you for all the patients listening on a Sunday morning and evening. It's really a great thing. Thank you very much, Anjali ji, for the opportunity. And if any questions?
Yeah, we have questions. The first question is, where do we buy the game?
In India, if you are there, we can, just send it to you. And for rest of the countries, we will, where there is a wish, there is a way. We will figure
You're
it out.
working on
Something.
it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe through Amazon, we can make it available.
I see. Please do, guys, either just unmute and ask, or you can put the question in the chat. I'll ask with a question. I have a question. Many times, and I talk about this in the book, one of the challenges in the US also is not every yoga instructor is the same, as you mentioned, right? When a patient who's willing to learn approaches a doctor, the biggest kind of information gap here is the doctor doesn't know quite well what kind of yoga class to send that person to. I know, I mean, there's no easy answer, but what are your thoughts? Is it the same issue in India too? Like, how do you deal with it?
Absolutely. The same is the issue in India too. And I'm very glad you asked this question. So I would like to encourage, especially the Indian community who is there across the world, that understanding this crisis, which is there, and I mean, it's both a crisis and a good, you can say, opportunity. Yoga is global, which is something we all are proud of. But in the name of globalization, what has happened is there is substandardization. The quality of these aspects somewhere is dropping. And so average person globally who wants to learn yoga and get the benefits, somewhere he lands up, if he accidentally lands up at a wrong place, he is discouraged from going further. So to solve this problem, 10 years back, we had under the Iyengar Guruji, we had a committee being formed by the government. And we have now a ministry called as Ayush Ministry. Some of you might be definitely knowing it. So under that, we have created a syllabus. The Ayush Ministry has created a board. For the first time, the way in India, we have education boards, IB board, CBSE, ICSE boards in education. In the same way for yoga education, we have a board called as YCB. So anytime you want to learn from any yoga instructor, just check for YCB certification or Ayush certification. So that is one which you can go for it. If you don't find one, you can get yourselves certified, because all these things are online. The Indian government has made the learning, the education and the accreditation, that is certification process online. You can just, study and go give the exams, and you yourself can also be certified. So this is how you yourself, or you can go to an instructor who is himself Ayush accredited, certified.
Okay, thank you. Meenal has a question. Considering most of the brain development is complete by age 5, what can we introduce to a 3-year-old?
Oh, wow. You still have 2 years. Yeah. So definitely many things. As I talked about, improving the observation skills of the child is very, very important. Taking the child in nature, that could also be a way in which we can introduce the child with different aspects of life and to improve its observation skills. With observation of nature, you can feel this kind of calmness and relaxation. When you see the birds chirping, when you see the clouds moving, ultimately you feel that kind of calmness and serenity within. And that itself has a great amount of positive effects on the child. Definitely, if you are fortunate enough, you can send your child to a certified kids yoga instructor. But if you are not so much fortunate, you want to start it on your own. Okay, nature is the greatest teacher. All the yogic scriptures are inspired from nature. Why do we have Bhujangasana? Why do we have Vrikshasana? Why do we have Surya Namaskar? Nature around us is the best teacher of yoga. And so keep it wild. Yeah, the lesser we train, the better the child can develop.
Thank you. Another question is, are we promoting these sessions in Indian schools and colleges? That's a big question. That's where all of you come into play, but I'll let Dr. Chote answer that.
Yeah. I'm Srinivas here. I asked that question. Yeah.
Namaste. Thank you. Thank you, Srinivasji. So basically, you might be knowing that the education policy, national education policy, which is newly framed 2020 in India, has a great emphasis on academic education in schools up to the first 5 years into the regional languages. So even if you are an international school, English medium and all these things, it's very much important that you start the schooling in the mother tongue. Because I do remember when I read the book of J.R.D. Tata and all. So like even he used to say that when I think in English, but when I calculate the economics I calculate in French. The numbers are French. So because he was having a French mother, Indian father, so that's how this used to happen. So in the same way, we are very familiar with our mother tongue, and the way we can be creative in our mother tongue, it couldn't be into any foreign language. Yes, absolutely, to go global, it's very important to have a foreign language, but these things are important. So the way we, in communication, you have Indian languages. In the same way, as far as life goals are concerned and life drafting the life structure is concerned, you cannot have American, Japanese, and European templates for Indian way of life. You should have a localized templates for your own life. And what best templates we can have apart from our Indian owned scriptures, which are Ved, Quran, Upanishads, and Yoga Sutras, and these classical texts. So Chaturved Purusharthas would be far more better than reading Ikigai and copying some other templates of life. Yeah. So that's how we are finding these kind of changes in Indian curriculum system also. And so yoga is going to be very much, it's a part, it's not a graded subject anymore in the next education policy. It is going to be at par as we treat science, mathematics. It is going to be a parallel subject. So that's a
good to hear. Yeah, it should be a school subject. That's what I want to see. Yep.
Yes. And that's the thing. When it is a graded subject, you always feel it is an optional thing. But when you find it is given taught at par marks, the parents have a different kind of mindset when they encourage their child. And when today yoga is taught at the level of physical education, it's compared with physical education. So only practices of yoga, Surya Namaskar, asana are been done. So we always feel that practicing yoga is like doing an acting in a movie. So if you have a wrestling movie done by Salman Khan, it doesn't mean Salman Khan is the best wrestler. I'm just taking this for fun, the name, okay? But if you send the actor to Olympics, I don't know if we can get a medal in wrestling, or it is better to send an actual professional wrestler in the Olympics. So that's what the idea of yoga, the philosophy of yoga is equally important along with the practices of yoga. And that can happen when you introduce in school that in standard, first standard, fifth standard, whatever standards, there is a syllabus and education system for yoga, the way we have for computers and mathematics and everything.
Thank you.
Thank you. Archana ji, go ahead, ask your question, please.
Yeah, I just, Dr. Chote, that was an excellent talk. Thank you very much. And you touched upon several key points. I just wanted to, really appreciate, the fact about how yoga is not just a physical thing, which people make such a huge, mistake in thinking that's what it is. And also the importance of the mother tongue, speaking in your own language. I'm a neurologist and neuroscience researcher at the Baylor College of Medicine, and I do research in Ayurveda as well. I just wanted to point out for those who may not be aware of this, Agastya Gurukulam is an organization that's actually working to develop such education. They have right now the schools are online. It's a full-time school. Children are taught yoga with Yoga Sutra chanting and the theory as well. They learn Kalari Payattu, and then the Gurukulam education. It's an effort to bring it online to make it available to everyone. But physical locations will be starting in the next year in Bangalore and hopefully in Texas as well. So for those who want some help in practically implementing this, you might want to look at Agastya Gurukulam. You can Google them and you'll find them. I can also put it in the chat.
Yeah, can you put the link in the chat, Archana ji?
I will do that.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, this is the kind of collaboration we need. Thank you.
Absolutely, lovely.
Jay Shelvikarji, go ahead, please.
Namaste. I have one simple question. I think the talk was excellent and it was very interesting subject along with whatever facts were provided. I wanted to share this one with my children. So when can and how we gonna get recording so I can tell them to listen to it.
This recording, I'm recording it on my computer and I'll put it up on YouTube.
Excellent. How would we know?
Would you mind
subscribe to Indology Academy on YouTube. Ring the little bell and you will
Perfect.
know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And one more appeal I wanted to make, like considering the response, I'm very overwhelmed. So we understood this pain point, and we felt like compared to adults, it's very, very vital and important for us, as Archana ji rightly pointed out, that when the clay is soft, we can mold it. And that's along with, though we are an Ayush accredited center providing all this certification and courses to adults, but now we are going to start and have Ayush certifications and proper courses where you have integration of the classical texts, whether it is Bhagavad Gita, certain aspects of the Upanishads, important mantras, and its relevance in daily life as far as academics and studies are concerned. So we have handcrafted and designed these kind of courses, whether it is completely oriented from the school point of view for the children. So those who are interested, these all courses are going to be online. So and at the end, after completion of the course, there would be proper exams, and you can receive Ayush Ministry certifications also. So those who have kids, especially in the secondary high school, we can call it as pubertal and adolescent age group. So especially for those children, I mean, for those parents, I would appeal all of you to just go through the syllabus. And if you are interested, we can later on through Anjali Madam, Bankim ji, we can just have further interactions and doubt clearing sessions also.
Yes. Anyone? Yes. Thank you. Anyone else have questions? Oh, is there a difference between certification for teaching yoga to kids? Okay, that's a good question. Is there anything specific or different required for teaching yoga to kids in terms of certification?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, for example, a doctor whom you go to and the doctor whom you take your child to, is that same or different? Right? Yeah, it's the same kind of difference, because those we call as pediatricians and the adults one are called as physicians. Okay, like in the same way, yoga is at a very nascent stage. So initially now we feel, okay, certified person itself is a very big thing, getting a certified trainer. So slowly and gradually, when there is more and more research and more awareness, more kind of scope for this, people will be aware. And we already have programs. One is certified yoga teacher training, kids yoga teacher training course after your level 1 and level 2 certification. We have pregnancy yoga teacher training course, and then we have yoga therapy, level 1, 2, and all these kind of things. So these are specializations where you try to understand the developmental milestones, the problems and the needs of girls are different, boys are different. In the pubertal age group, they are different. In the kids, younger children, they are different. Older children, they are different. So how to apply yogic principles and make creative activities for them, that is the idea of kids yoga. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Anyone else? We can take one more question before 10:15.
One question. When Dr. Chodeji says we, who is this we? Is it like Indology?
No, it's the Swasti Yoga Center. Please, Dr. Chote, tell us about your organization a little bit.
Okay, so namaste. So Swasti Yoga Center is an Ayush, Ministry of Ayush accredited yoga training center. And we have been running it for more than 8 years. We have 2 branches in Pune, but we also have online training programs, which later on after the training, we have our own exams, which after which you get certified from Ministry of Ayush. And we have some of our students also here. So Bankim ji and we have Anupama ji and some of them, they are our students. So that's something about Swasti Yoga Center. And fortunately, we can say after the COVID, when things became more online, we have more and more students globally joining in. So today we have students from 35 countries who are joining in. Yeah, there's someone who has written drvikaschote.wordpress, but that's an old website. It's no more functional. Our website name is swastiyogacenter.com.
Thank you. And while the person asked, Indology Academy, so our purpose, and when I say our, it's probably just a one-man band of me at this point, but we're trying to kind of build excellent folks from India and elsewhere in the world who are doing Indic work, right? What is Indic? We can get into that. That's a separate discussion altogether. Doing amazing work. And then this yoga series that we've been presenting for the past year, I figured, he was amazing to bring. Bankimji kind of made the connection. And so I just want his work highlighted. So that is the goal of Indology Academy. So for those who are signed up for these kind of webinars and whatnot, this is precisely the point. We're working on, and then because this is a team effort, working on bringing an Indic journal, International Journal of Indology. We're working on bringing that forth this year. So we'll launch that also, because I want research that bridge to be gapped between India, the East and the West, broadly speaking. So that's the little bit about Indology Academy. Any other last minute point, or do you want to close out, Dr. Chote, just bring it together, close it out, and then we will call it a session. No one? No other comments?
Bankimji, we are not able to hear you. Bankimji wants to say something.
We can't hear you, sir.
Oh, okay. So there was one, yeah. Yeah, now, okay.
Is that him?
Okay, I guess there's some problem. Anjali madam, I would just like to take this opportunity. And when you talked about integrating, the East and the West, so that's where I would also like to, we can propose about having this kind of cultural exchange programs of students and youths. So maybe if there are people who are working in this kind of exchanges and activities, so maybe they can join with us. We already have many foreign students coming to India, and we engage them into government schools and slums, upgrading, and upskilling the local children over there, so that they develop their confidence, and are able to understand more about the West and different cultures and languages. And at the same time, the foreign students are also able to understand, value, and appreciate life resources, and how our philosophy is embedded in our markets, festivals, and everything. So in such kind of exchange programs, yogic cultural exchange programs, if anyone is interested, you can, have them on board.
Absolutely. And I will also want to point out that Dr. Chote's wife, also another accomplished person, we're trying to bring her on too. So this is a continuing dialogue. This is not the last time we'll see him or her who we haven't seen yet. So this is an ongoing dialogue. Okay. Thank you all for joining. And we will hopefully see you soon. Okay. Namaste to everyone. Have a good one.
Thank you very much, madam.
Namaskar.